GBPUSD, the cable market, of course, and it was quite a consolidative phase during the course of last week trading session. Remember, we've been monitoring these assets since last week trading session, and in fact, with the way things are going right now, the new week commenced with a cautious optimism as trading activity consolidates above the critical demand zone. Remember, we identified this during our last week trading session around the 1.20500 zone. We are going to be looking at that in a moment. Now, despite attempts to gain momentum, the pair is still experiencing a measured uptick, with traders exercising caution amidst ongoing tensions in the Middle East and, of course, the anticipation of the pivotal central bank meeting coming up this week, and from both economic fronts, when we shall be listening to the broadcast of the interest rate decision. So these are very high impactful event, and of course it's very likely that we witness some consolidation phase, some indecision phase ahead of the interest rate decision from both economy dockets. So in that regard, we are also going to be considering the potential that we could have an extended consolidation phase in the market. Now, before we go into the detail here, let's scale up into the higher time frame where we want to see things from an holistic standpoint. Now, on the higher time frame, what I did here was to take into consideration the nature of price action since June of last year. So this is a data expanding, running through the time of about over a year now in approximate. And what I was able to identify here was that key level had the 1.20500 area, which we shall be using as a yardstick to guide our trading activities for this week. And why have I chosen this key level? Well, if you look at the structure closely, in fact, since last year, June, you see how this key level had played a major role in determining the direction of price action. Look at the month of June. We saw how this level was more of buy pressure, and then we saw some consolidation phase around this area before price action broke down the structure in the month of August of last year. Price dropped down, then fast forward to December of last year, we saw price climb above the structure, and since then we saw how buyers struggle to gain traction and climb and stay comfortable above that key level. Now, in the last couple of months, we have observed a continued and strong bearish momentum, and despite the strong bearish momentum, you will see that price in the last 3 weeks have found it difficult to break through the 1.20500 area, giving us clue on how strong the buy memory around this level is. Now, for the fact that sellers are finding it difficult to break through this key level is a red flag that buyers are still having a say in this particular market. Now, for us to be able to position ourselves ahead of this new week, we need some technical patterns on the chart that will be guiding our decisions. And in that regard, I scaled down into the 4 hours time frame, and on the 4 hours time frame, what I did here was to consider what has been going on in this market since the month of July. And in fact, it's quite clear that price action is bearish. In fact, we have a couple of descending trend line after connecting the series of lower highs to emphasize the strength of the sellers here. Now, something interesting happened since the month of October began. Despite this strong bearish momentum, you will see here how since this month began, sellers have found it difficult to break through that area. And every point in time price comes into the zone, we saw our buyers come in to negate all sellers' attempt to break through that area. And the inability of sellers to break through this area had made me to label that area as a demand zone, which could be serving as a platform that will drive another bullish momentum in this market, maybe back into those descending trend lines to incite a sell-off, or we could have a breakout of those trend lines to incite more buying opportunities. Now, our center of focus is going to be around that key level, and that as long as price remains above the key level, we shall feel comfortable in a buy position. And for me, the only condition that will make me want to be selling the GBPUSD on a long-term perspective is only if price will take out all the buy positions around the 1.20500 area by breaking down that structure with an engulfing bearish candle, retest of structure, after which we shall feel comfortable selling. So now with the information we have gathered here, let's scale back into the 1 hour time frame to see how participants in this market has been reacting to this current structure. Now, scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, we'll begin to see things more clearly. Now, the first thing I did on the 1 hour time frame was to identify the higher lows, which has been peculiar with this market since last week, Thursday. Now, we saw connecting the series of higher lows, we have this ascending trend line, and we have the major one right below the structure. Now, you know how we use our ascending trend line in this community. As long as price remains above the ascending trend line, we do want to feel comfortable in a buy position. And the only condition that will make us consider selling selling this asset is only if price can break down that ascending trend line, give us some selling pressure below it to incite a sell-off. Now, let's look at, besides the ascending trend lines here, what has been going on in this market. So since the beginning of this week, it's quite clear that price has been confined within a range that is between the 1.21330 and the 1.21060 level. Now, this further emphasizes the level of indecision since the week began. And we can understand why this is, as majority are still trying to test waters, especially when we are looking forward to interest rate decisions from the Bank of England, interest rate decision from the Federal Reserve too, all coming up the same week. So it's very important that we exercise patience and wait for significant breakout or breakdown of the structure to give us an insight into where price will be going. So now, how do we intend to buy or sell this asset? So for me to sell, let's talk about the potentials of sellers here. I would want to see price action break down this ascending trend line, which interestingly shares a confluence with the support line of that range at the 1.21060 level, where a retest of that structure will give us opportunities to join a bearish momentum. So this is the only condition for us today to consider selling the GBP USD. However, considering the fact that price remains above a robust demand zone that we identified on the 4 hours time frame, that is the 1.21 1.20500 zone, the chances that buyers can come in here it still remains very feasible as price still remains above those ascending trend line we spotted here. In that regard, I want to be positioning myself for buying opportunities at the resistant level of this range, which is situated at the 1.21330 area, where a breakout retest of that resistant line will welcome buying opportunities in this particular market. And if price action continues to climb up, then I want to be looking out for more opportunities at the breakout of the 1.21600 level. So let's see how the market is going to play out from the structure. And if price continues to climb above, then we anticipate more buying opportunities. So let's label this one 1.21600 level. Please mark it out on your chart as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So this is how we are going to be managing our trades on the GBP USD. So our center of focus basically for today is between the 1.21330 and the 1.21060 area. So depending on the direction of the breakout will give us a clue into where we shall be going for today's trading session. So these are my views. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section.